Namaskar and welcome everyone on this special show where we have Ramas Krishnan on the call. He is the CEO and MD of Tab India and Infinite Group. We have got interesting discussion today with regards to the mindsets of the entrepreneur and different aspects that the entrepreneurs are today concerned about. Being part of the Tab, we are seeing almost 70-80 entrepreneurs on regular interval, and that is actually drawing us to a thought process as to what is the ongoing challenges that the entrepreneurs are facing. Ramas has got a lot of perspective on how to differently think about your problems, and that actually intrigued me to make him part of this show and tell him to talk about these new concepts or perspectives that he gives in the meetings all the while. So that's the idea of today's call. It is going to be very, very practical, simple, down to earth, day to day for everyone, and it will be like a immediate take home for everyone, not a very high class Gyan session like generally you can think about. So that's actually different about this session. Welcome you all, and we will actually start the questions, Ramas, on this show. Let's get into three topics we are talking about. First is, as a business owner, how do personal goals influence business strategies? That is the first topic of our talk. The second topic is, should the business owners reconsider the way they look at their employees? That is second topic. As you all know, HR, recruitment, trainings, and also retention is becoming a big challenge. So that is why this topic is selected. The third topic that we have selected is, what is the real goal for an SME, profitability or valuation? There is a very big trauma going on between throwing profitability behind valuation and sometimes not completely missing out on valuations while you are focusing on profitability. So what to choose when and how to choose. So these are the three topics that we are going to cover in ongoing shows. Today's first session is focused on the personal goals influencing the business strategy. So that is today's topic. With this, I would like to tell you a couple of anecdotes that have come to my personal growth as a professional, as an entrepreneur. I have always been thinking about business all the time, and actually business was actually making my personal goals as well, but it was actually reverse, and I could never think about this, that personal goals always are front ending the business strategies and business goals. When I looked at my starting point, I came to know that my personal apprehensions and my personal dreams both made my career over a period of time. And how can I forget about my personal goals while talking about business strategies? So especially this show is for the entrepreneurs who are more like owner-managed companies. So this is going to be a very important conflict that we all have, but we don't know we have it. And that is why we are discussing this topic. So Ramas, I would come straight on to the question. Should one consider personal priorities when discussing about business plans?
Yep. Thank you, Mitesh. But I guess it's just fair I set the context for you as well. First of all, very, very glad to be here discussing with you. And exciting because of the two fronts. On one hand, you could claim that you are a coach. On the other hand, I can claim the same about you, right? So it's very important for everybody to know that Mitesh himself is a very well accomplished professional. Not only as a chartered accountant, he does his own personal planning in terms of his own farming, sustainability. Plus, he's also a great person when it comes to Bhagavad Gita and spirituality. And Mitesh and I go back many years. And the first meeting I remember with Mitesh was when I had gone in and spoken to him about the TAP concept. And he is one of the quickest person who agreed right away. So it always told me that he's a person who likes new concept, and anything that can help him achieve his business, he would say yes. And Mitesh is part of a team, as you can see, APMH. There are 5 partners out there, and over time I've known to grow him as well. Great individuals, great professionals, And collectively, they have taken the firm to a great level. And Mitesh has been driving business strategy and transformation. So it is indeed appropriate that the two of us are kind of sharing experiences across. And this question, like I said, has been the starting point for Mitesh's conversation with me, because Mitesh is a multifaceted personality. And like he said right in the beginning, there were these standalone elements, right? This is business, this is farming, this is transport, this is business, and so on and so forth. But whether we like it or not, human beings are not partitioned in our brains or hearts. Let's keep brain aside, even that we can partition. But our hearts certainly are not partitioned. To that extent, what happens is when we wake up in the day, while we can do our calendar and the calendar may seem like timelines and so on and so forth, we all know that in the morning there is one instance that might come, one thing that is in our personal life. It could be our family. If it captures our imagination, it can then blow our calendar away. So while in isolation, the calendar may really seem to be broken, in our heart, it cannot be. Similarly with business and personal life. The analogy we use at TAB constantly is that of a cycle, right? The cycle has two wheels, and it's very epitomic because cycle is risky, right? You do fall down. All of us, when we started learning cycle, we know we are going to fall down, and yet we learn because of the future day when we can ride a bike, right? That aspiration of a two-wheeler with the risk. Entrepreneurs have that risk. So if we are not looking for a risk, why be in business? And therefore, the analogy of a cycle is good. Now, in a cycle, there are two wheels, the rear wheel and the front wheel. The rear wheel is our business, no doubt. It provides the power. Our pedal is connected with it, and we are biking furiously half the time to reach some place, and it gives us a propulse that ahead. Then the question is, why do we need the front wheel at all? Interesting thing. It is connected to the handle. Because the front wheel and the handle is what takes us in the right direction. So sometimes, and I have met hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs who use this analogy of saying, I've caught a business by the tiger's tail. No, I can't hold it. I can't let it go. That usually happens because we are focused so much on the business that we drive very fast to reach the wrong destination. And therefore, it is very important to understand that the personal priorities are the direction in which the business needs to head. Let me just take few more seconds to explain this. Why? Simply because I think all MBA schools, all colleges, all the content is derived towards creating employees. It's a mindset. Nothing wrong in that. It's corporatization, professionalism. In fact, there is a whole furor of trying to make us think that the business is very, very different and professional means autopilot. All those are correct. But as long as the owner, an entrepreneur, is still running the business and guiding the policies, their perspective of what is a risk, what is an opportunity is very different from when we are managing somebody else's money. Which is why, as a leader of the organization, ultimately, we are not just investing our skill sets, we are not just investing our time, we are not just investing our emotions and even ownership like employees. There is something beyond that. And sometimes the founders are called investors. And investors, one would think we are investing capital. I'm saying, no, we invest time, skill, all that stuff. We invest capital also, but there is something more than that. And that's our life itself. Most entrepreneurs will tell you that what they are really investing in their life, they're investing their family's effort, they're investing their passion. And very often we put our business ahead of ourselves. So in this direction, what happens is while we are putting a lot of emphasis on business, if we do not understand what it means for us, then after a few years, we would find that the business is drawing us in a direction which is very, very different from where we started off with. We started off the business with a certain view, like cycle, right? You want to be in the wind, with the wind and cycling. And suddenly you realize you're on a treadmill. You're really not cycling. You're not going anywhere. I think, therefore, it is very important, Mitesh, that personal priorities are extremely important. In fact, I would say they are the guiding factor to the business strategy. The business strategy follows based on the personal priority. Does it kind of
very, very important answer, Ramas. I am impressed by this thought process, and I've been discussing this with many, many friends and fellow TAB members all the time. And I've been getting a lot of feelers. And I have found people surprisingly not able to define 3 or 4 personal priorities also in their life. And still they are running businesses like a tycoon. And I don't know where they are going to drive this all aspects? Are they trying to use their free time in a different way, or are they actually guided by any vision? That is something that I'm not coming to know. And most of us, I will tell you, are just doing something to overpower our neighbors or friends. And we are trying to, that is the only vision that we have many times. So that is not how it should be. One has to really relook at his own personal priorities, think through what he actually wants, and then put the business strategies around that. That is the right way of doing it. Here, the second important point that drives my personal question is, if we are having multiple stakeholders into the business like we all have, and all of them have different personal priorities, that's my debate with Ramas all the while, that how do you drive the business strategy in such a situation?
This is a great question, right? And it's one of the common questions in what we call family managed businesses. Right? I love to call this as the owner managed business rather than SMEs, like you very well know. But when you say family managed businesses, there are multiple stakeholders, and we are talking about active stakeholders. That throws in a lot more of a difficulty because quite often, let's take some personal priorities. And I'm going to take some practical examples. Let's talk about health and harmony. Let's talk about personal wealth and financials. Let's talk about life partner and relationships. Let's talk about spirituality and community. If you take just these kind of examples, you see these are all very, very intensely personal, right? And whatever esoteric framework model you do, there is no reason why these things should align when it comes to the all the different partners. Now, we take a very antiseptic view of business, right? So if you look at it the other way around from a business, immediately we start talking all the jargons, industry and business potential. We talk about business performance, value, exit. We talk about leadership and key team alignment. We talk about processes and people. We talk about business model. And immediately we have to talk about something very personal, which is called shareholder accountability and exit, right? So you see, these are all balancing factors. Let us take just one factor. If we talk about shareholder accountability and exit, depending upon the age and the profile, it is not necessary that all shareholders want the same thing from the business. For example, somebody may want their children to join the business. Somebody may want to exit. Somebody may want to sell out. Somebody may just want a work-life balance. I know so many entrepreneurs who actually want to work from 10 to 4 and let the business do what we want. Whereas some other entrepreneur in the same partnership is intensely ambitious. They really want to show something to the world. And when they go back to the alumni meeting, the next time they want to show that they have performed. Now you suddenly start realizing that the slowest of these or the lowest common denominator starts guiding the business. And this gets couched in a lot of business jargon, right? It gets couched in a lot of discussion, endless meetings. You could discuss business strategy as long as you want, but where it is coming from is from what I want from the business is very, very different. And therefore, it is very important to know the personal DNA of every entrepreneur. And there needs to be a structured process by which we align the priorities of the person. And let me tell you this, and I've done this many times. It is lack of communication which is the problem and not the differences in priorities. I want to emphasize this again. People having different priorities is natural. It is natural. It needs to be very, very different. The business can be the same, but the priorities can be very different. What usually happens is we don't transparently discuss it. But if we do, there is a structured method by which all these different priorities can be made to be delivered by the same business as long as we acknowledge it. And ultimately, what does this mean? This means policies. So we have to create policies for the business, which differentiates the personal wealth and the business wealth, differentiates the area of responsibility and strategy. And it is possible to do this and live in harmony. I think that's the whole idea. Now, when we start the business, most partners don't think like this. Naturally so, because which business school teaches us this? And most entrepreneurs are not necessarily from business school. They know their dhanda very well, right? And that's why they start. And they work with partners because they like them, right? We love them. We trust them. See, trust is the thing that keeps the partners together. But over a period of time, our life changes, business changes. At that time, this alignment needs to be kept. And this is not a once in a lifetime exercise. In our engagements, we literally do this every year and every 5 years to bring this alignment, and then harmony exists. So absolutely great question, especially in the Indian context. And let me just wind this down by also saying In the past days, especially in the business communities, especially, right? If you see in India, this alignment was provided by the senior person in the family, right? And they used to live in the same house. There was a joint family system. There was a reason why people should coexist, right? But if you see where is our personal life headed? Today in our personal life, forget about joint families. Even within the family, we are talking about nuclear families. Now that needs to reflect in the business systems. So in the business systems, if it is, we are not nuclear, but still it doesn't mean families break up. We don't. But provided there is understanding. So I guess this thinking has to evolve. We have to bring in this process. And over a period of time, managing the personal priorities is a separate planning activity, as different from business planning. They are not the same. They both need to be done and they both need to be kept healthy.
Great. So I think, to paraphrase, there is a point of convergence of everyone's personal goals into a particular business goal. And that point of convergence has to be achieved. And that has to be kept on achieved again and again. Because everyone is moving ahead in his own life cycle, in his own personal goals, in his own personal challenges. And at that point in time, his or her priorities keep on moving from one area to another area. It is very, very dynamic scenario. So it is very important that we keep on aligning, realigning, and rethinking about everyone's priorities while we are setting up the business goals. And that is how we can keep on moving the ball and growing as a business as well as achieving the personal goals at the same time. Great, Thomas. What is one thing that can keep these two aligned? The personal goals and the business strategy.
Funny enough, right? We are consultants, both of us, and more importantly, we have an outsider in Europe. So the one thing has to be a process. So because it cannot be jugaad, it cannot be left to chance. The one thing that keeps these two aligned, and that is we need a process, a healthy process of planning and reviews. Now, unfortunately, we think of business as just business KPIs or business numbers, again, in a very, very esoteric manner. That is not the case. I think the whole idea of business as usual, as well as the long-term strategy, which needs to be looked at. So there is the personal vision, there is a business vision, and there is a plan. The closest example I can give you is there is a compass, but you can't take a compass and really start on a trek. A compass is needed. It can give you a broad direction, but it can't help you wherever you want. At the same time, you can have a map, right? And it doesn't mean that if you have the map, the terrain will be exactly like that, because execution reality will never reflect the map. There is something else that is going to happen. And the compass may help you in the general direction. The map may tell you the general planning, but execution, you have to be still agile. But it doesn't mean that if you're agile, you go in a particular direction. How do you come back? It is again with the map and the compass. So it is not that you start a journey with a map and a compass. Once you plan your journey, you throw away that and continue walking and hope that God will take it. It doesn't happen like that. All three need to exist. Because sometimes the map goes off track. Your GPS system in your car falls down. Sometimes just a route sense of direction might help you get where you want. So I think this analogy works in business as well. So the one thing which I really, really, really hope entrepreneurs put in place is to have a disciplined method year on year, right? I'm not even saying daily. Daily is business as usual, firefighting, all that will work. But at least once a year, there is a need for us to align my personal value goals with my business model and look at the core values that bind us together. I think this process, as you know, at TAB, we follow a very structured method of year-end sequencing. It is very, very important. I do a lot of these workshops with business owners on business DNA, because I just say that the business has a DNA that mirrors what the owners want. But this alignment is a very structured, and you cannot mix it with business as usual. It is not that today we are discussing booking, billing, collection. Next year, where are we supposed to go? What are the products that we are going to come? Which customers are important? Hey, and this is my personal vision. It doesn't work like that. I think it has to be a distinct process, right? Keeping the business personal vision fresh and aligned, and having a separate tracking methodology for that. For example, I will take you one example, which will come to the topic later. Different people have different requirements. Somebody has children going to college, somebody may have a wedding coming up, somebody wants to do a PhD, somebody wants to retire, doesn't matter. So their requirements in the business will vary. How does the business even provide for different levels of funds, right? Somebody wants an exit. What happens if something? So even at that level of finance, it is very important to align how the business remuneration sticks with the business along with the strategy and the business model. For example, if the partner wants the next 5 years to have some very aggressive personal goals, forget about multiple partners, even if there's a single partner, and suddenly they realize that they want very aggressive growth in the next 3 to 5 years, right? Now that's what they want. They have to balance their time. They have to see how much to give, but they also have to choose the business model aligned with it, right? So this definition of a business plan and a personal plan and a process of review is what I think is the one thing. If we put that in place regularly, this alignment is far more easier to do.
Yeah. Okay, so just to paraphrase, this is more like a process, and one has to keep on aligning, be it a single person or multiple stakeholders. I think process is the answer, and one has to follow it meticulously and sometimes ruthlessly, not to look at too much of luring towards certain things which are not going to actually help you achieve any of your personal goals, but business may grow with it. On the other hand, looking at certain personal aspects in a different mirror of business and seeing whether you are going in right direction or not. This is like a continuous process, and that process needs to be adhered to make sure that there is a true alignment between these two wheels, that is the front wheel personal and the rear wheel, that is the business, going hand in hand and trying to achieve all the three at a time, that is the map, the compass, and the terrain. All the three at a time is a really fun event, and it makes all your weekdays Sundays if you can do that.
Oh, that's a very nice way of saying it. And I just want to add, I love the fact that you called it fun, because I think that, thank you so much, because that exemplifies it. Because sometimes the whole idea of a process or a mechanism, let me tell you, switches off most entrepreneurs. Because it's action oriented, they imagine a plan, they imagine a tool, they imagine MVP, they imagine a conference room, and it switches them off. That is not the point. Even yoga is a process, breathing is a process. More importantly, just keeping your loved ones happy is also a process. So it has to be fun. The process is fun, by the way. The process has to be simple, it has to be fun, and it has to give benefits. It is not a complicated process. So thank you for bringing the fun element into it. But at this time, Mitesh, I think it's very important that you have a lot of experience in dealing with owner-managed businesses, plus your own experience, like you rightly said. So maybe it's a good idea to kind of put this into a package. If you were to share your own experiences and what you would like to kind of add to this process.
Yeah. So, Thomas, we have been always into finance, accounting, tax, and we always used to think that these are ends, not the means. And after doing a lot of work on strategy and other things, I feel that they are just means, and there is some other end that we need to achieve. All the clients look at us as what you call wizards, who will solve all their issues when they meet us, right? And they ask us multiple questions, both personal as well as business. And they feel that, what this guy will say is like a verdict. So that time we have to be very, very cautious and thoughtful about what we talk and how we talk. And there is a big challenge that everyone thinks that the solution to every problem is finance or money, but that is not the point. So one has to look deeper and solve larger issues or bigger problems. Sometimes zoom out and think through the real personal goals. And as I told in the starting, many miss the real personal goals, or they don't know what are their inner callings, and they never spend any time on finding out their inner callings. They always are in the rat race of maximizing wealth or maximizing possessions, and that doesn't solve many of their problems. And then they have to go to a strategic consultant or someone like you, who can actually tell them that there is a larger problem which needs to be solved to solve the money problem or the wealth problem or the possessions problem. And if that gets solved, then things look very simple and straightforward, right? The war was a business problem for Arjun, but for Bhagwan, it was a personal problem. And he said that if you can solve the personal problem and identify yourself correctly, or identify yourself with the true self, then most of the problems will look very straightforward. And you will find that actually there is no problem. Okay. And you will actually be in bliss even after doing all sorts of things that the world will look at and say it is a valor or a fight or a what you call a vengeance. But it is nothing but solving your personal issue. Once that is solved, everything looks very, very simple and straightforward. So Arjun started looking very complex. And when we also start the first chapter and look at it, we think, yes, there is a real problem in which the real dilemma which the Arjun is facing. But Bhagwan starts with a different solution. He says that the solution doesn't lie in tactics. The solution lies in the strategy. And you need to solve strategy, not the tactics. The tactics will automatically fall in place if you can solve the strategy. So that is how I look at it. And I think everyone should look beyond just possessions and a red race which we are going around, and not knowing the real self and not understanding the personal vision or the personal goal, and just trying to put the rear wheel in front and trying to ride the cycle, and then missing the path or maybe falling down somewhere, and then cursing the rear wheel or the thought process of the front wheel and trying to struggle with it. So I would like to conclude this by saying that this is actually a very intriguing thought process that needs to be evolved, and one needs to actually do it regularly to solve a larger issue. Maybe you call it as annual planning, or you may be calling it as whatever thing, right? But that needs to be done, and that needs to be followed through for a continuous period of time. And then your compass, your map, and your terrain all will align, and you will really have fun.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a very great summary and completely in sync with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramas, for this nice session. We will continue to chase you with multiple ideas that you have been giving in the form of gems to the entrepreneurs, and really trying to solve problems and heartily trying to help entrepreneurs in real direction. I have met many people, read many books, but I have found very few people who really feel from inside and work on solving the issues in real situations, and work on long-term aspects of entrepreneurship than just to solve tactical issues, day-to-day issues. So I am very grateful to be part of this session, and we'll continue this. And all of us are requested to actually share this video and like it with all your entrepreneurial friends and family members. And we'll continue to share two more gems on the series. One is on the recruitment and retention, and another is about the profitability and the valuation, which we feel are real big trends which the entrepreneurs are working on solving day in and day out. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.